It is the last week of August, and you come in from the grocery store and set the bags down on the counter, and there are 3 of them where there used to be 5 for the same money. And you look at the receipt, and you feel that quiet little tightening in your chest, because it is more than last month again, and more than last year, and it just seems to climb and never come back down. And you look out the kitchen window at your garden, and it is winding down now. The tomato vines gone leggy and tired, the squash about spent, and you think to yourself, well, the season is about over. Time to put the garden to bed for the year. Now hold on right there, friend, because here's the thing almost nobody tells you anymore, and it will turn your whole idea of the garden around. That patch of dirt out your window is not winding down. It is about to give you the finest food of the entire year. Because the best garden of all is the one hardly anybody plants now. And it is the fall garden. And this, right now, these last weeks of August, is the exact time you put it in the ground. And here's the part that will truly surprise you. The vegetables of the fall garden are not some sad, tough leftovers of summer. They are sweeter than anything summer ever grows. Sweeter, because the frost itself, the very cold that kills off your tomatoes, reaches into these certain crops and makes them sweet, on purpose. And I will show you exactly how and why before we are done. And they come ripe and ready to eat in the very weeks of the year when the grocery store is at its dearest, and the shelves are highest priced, and everyone else is paying the most. Now, I am not here to frighten you about the times, and you will never hear that from me. Prices do what they do, and there is no use in fear over it. But a wise and settled household has always done the oldest and calmest thing there is about a hard season coming. It plants a little food. A single packet of seed costs about $1, and it can put fresh greens and sweet roots on your table clear through the cold months for pennies. When everything in that store costs the most, it costs all year. That is not fear, friend. That is provision. It is the quiet, steady kind of readiness that lets a man sleep easy. And not one part of it is hard. It is 10 minutes with a rake. Any man or woman watching can do the whole of it, and you do not need a big plot either. A strip of dirt along the fence, a raised bed, even a few buckets on the porch will feed you. I am Pastor Eli. I have kept a country parish and a country garden for the better part of 40 years, a garden that fed a family right up to the hard frost and beyond, back when the fall garden was as ordinary as breathing. And I learned the timing of it from the old folks and from a caretaker named Amos, who kept a leather ledger with every planting date written down in his own tight hand, dates I still plant by. Today I am going to give you 8 crops, counting them down from 8 to 1. And by the time we reach the bottom, you will be reaching for your rake before the video is even over. Number 3 feeds you right through the falling snow and gets sweeter the harder the cold bites it. And number 1, the very last one, is an old trick that turns your own cold ground into a root cellar, so that you walk out in December and January and dig fresh, sweet food straight out of the frozen earth. And almost nobody plants it that way anymore, and I will not touch it until the very end. So stay with me for it. But before you plant a single seed, there is one thing you must do first. Because if you get this one thing wrong, none of the rest will work. You have to find your first frost date and count backward from it. Now that sounds like a chore, but it is simple. Your first fall frost is the average night your area gets its first real freeze. And it is roughly sometime in October up north and on into November down south. And your county extension office knows it to the week, or any old gardener near you knows it in his bones. Once you have that date, here's the whole trick. For each crop, you count backward from that first frost, the number of days it takes that crop to grow. And then you add about 2 more weeks on top. Because the days are shortening now and the plants grow slower in the fall than they do in the spring, that little sum gives you your true deadline for each seed. And what that means plainly is this. The further north you live, the more of this list you must plant today, this very week, and you lean on the fast crops. The further south you are, the more weeks you have in hand, and you can plant the whole list, the slow ones and all. So do that little bit of counting first before anything, and everything else in this video falls right into place. One word before I start the count. The old ways I keep, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book, and you will find it at PastorEliWhitfield.com. It is called Waste Nothing, and it is a manual and not a sermon, with a real price on every material and an honest word on every limit. I will not mention it again. If you want it, you know where it is. Now, 8 crops, from 8 down to 1. Number 8, and we start with the quick reward for the doubters who think it is too late. Radishes. From the day you drop the seed to the day you pull a crisp radish is about 3 to 4 weeks, and there's nothing in the whole garden faster. So if part of you does not quite believe, you can still grow food in late August. Plant a short row of radishes this weekend, and in under a month, you will be pulling them, and you will believe. Sow them straight in the ground. Thin them a bit so they have room to round out and keep the soil damp. They shrug off a light frost without a care. It is the fastest proof there is that the garden is not done. Number 7, leaf lettuce. And here is a happy truth about it. The lettuce you tried to grow in the heat of summer turned bitter and shot up to seed on you, did it not? That is because lettuce hates the heat. It is a cool weather plant at heart. And the cool of the fall is exactly where it turns sweet and crisp and tender, the best lettuce you will grow all year. So the loose leaf kinds, the ones you cut a few outer leaves from and let keep growing, and you will be cutting fresh salad from the same plants for weeks. It handles a light frost, and if a hard freeze threatens you, throw an old bed sheet over it for the night. Fast, sweet, and it keeps on giving. Number 6, spinach, and this one is tough as an old boot. Spinach loves the cold, sweetens in it, and it is hardy enough that it will take a real hard frost and keep standing. And in many places, if you plant it now and mulch it well, it will sit right through the winter under the snow and come roaring back, the very first thing in spring, the earliest fresh green you will eat all year. So spinach earns its place twice, a fall crop and a spring one from a single August planting. Sow it thick, keep it watered while it is warm, and let the cold make it sweet. Number 5, turnips, and now we are into the old-timers' real staples, the waste-nothing crops. The turnip is 2 vegetables in one plant, and that is why the old folks loved it. You eat the leafy green tops, turnip greens, cooked down soft, and you eat the round root below, and nothing goes to waste. It grows fast. It is hardy against the cold, and the frost sweetens both the root and the greens. Sow it straight in the ground now, pull a few young for the greens, and let the rest fatten their roots into the cool weather. 1 seed, a whole meal, top and bottom. Let me pause here just a moment, friend. If these old ways are worth something to you, subscribe and walk along with me. I put out one of these every week, and it costs you nothing. Now let me stop you right here because we are turning a corner in this list. Everything so far from 8 down to 5 has been the quick crops, the ones that race to beat the frost. What comes next from here down to number 1 are the crops that do not just survive the frost. They wait for it. The cold is the very thing that makes them worth growing. And this is the part the fall garden was really always about, so stay close. Number 4, beets. And like the turnip, the beet gives you 2 foods from 1 seed. The root below, which sweetens in the cold and stores for a long while, and the tender red-veined leaves on top, which are a fine cooked green in their own right, better than most folks know. Sow them now. Thin them so the roots can swell, and the frost will only deepen their sweetness. And a beetroot will hold in the cool ground or a cool cellar for weeks and weeks after you pull it, which makes it real winter food, not just a fresh bite. Number 3, collards, and here is a green that laughs at the frost. The collard is the great cold weather green of this country, and it does not merely tolerate the cold, it welcomes it. And the harder the frost bites, the sweeter and more tender those big, broad leaves become. A collard plant will stand right up through a hard freeze and keep feeding you leaf by leaf all through the winter, and every cold snap only improves it. You pick the lower leaves and let the plant keep growing up from the center, and one row will carry a family in greens clear through the cold months. If you are further south, this is the backbone of your whole winter garden, and even up north it will feed you deep into the season. Number 2, kale, and now the star of the whole fall garden. Folks say they do not care for kale, that it is bitter, and here is what nobody told them. That was summer kale. Kale grown in the heat is tough and bitter, but kale kissed by the frost is a different vegetable entirely. Sweet and tender and mild, and anyone who has tasted it after a good cold snap will never call it bitter again. This is the crop where the frost magic is plainest. Plant it now, about 6 weeks before your frost, so it is well grown when the cold arrives. And then you pick it right on through the falling snow, brushing the frost off the leaves, and it gets sweeter with every freeze. There is no better return in the whole fall garden than a row of frost-sweetened kale, standing green and giving when everything else in the yard is gray and gone. And now number 1, the one my grandmother's people swore by, the old trick almost nobody keeps anymore, and it feels like getting away with something the first time you do it. Carrots. Now you can sow carrots now for a fall crop and pull them sweet after the first frost. And that alone is worth doing, for a frost-sweetened carrot tastes like candy next to the bland ones in the store. But here is the old secret, the part they truly stopped teaching. You do not have to dig them up in the fall at all. When the cold comes, you pile a thick blanket of straw or leaves right over your carrot row, a foot deep, and you leave them there, in the ground, all winter long. And that cold earth under the mulch becomes a living root cellar. The carrots keep perfectly, right where they grew, getting sweeter with every passing week. And you walk out on a freezing January day, pull back the straw, and dig fresh, crisp, sweet carrots out of the frozen ground, when the store is charging the most it charges all year. Fresh food from your own frozen dirt in the dead of winter for the price of one seed packet. That, friend, is the fall garden at its finest, and it is the reason I wanted to make this video. Now let me give you the honest word, because a friend tells you the limits and not just the wonders. A hard early freeze can catch the tender ones before they are ready, so the further north you are, the more you lean on the fast and hardy, the radishes and the spinach and the turnips and the kale, and you keep an old bedsheet or a bit of straw handy to throw over a bed on the coldest nights, which can buy you weeks. And no, I will not tell you a fall garden feeds a whole family through the winter all by itself, because it does not. But fresh greens and sweet roots on your table through the cold months for the cost of a few dollar seed packets, in the very season the grocery store is dearest, that is real, and it is worth every minute it takes. Now let me take a moment, because here is where it all comes together. Look at what these last quiet weeks of August can give you. Radishes in a month for the doubter. Sweet, crisp fall lettuce where the summer kind turned bitter. Hardy spinach that feeds you now and again first thing in spring. Turnips and beets, each one a root and a green from a single seed. Collards that welcome the frost and feed you all winter. Kale that turns sweet in the cold and stands green through the snow. And carrots tucked under the straw in a living root cellar, dug fresh and candy sweet out of the frozen ground in January. 8 crops, and the cold, the very thing you feared for your garden, making the best of them sweet. A packet of seed, a strip of dirt, and a table with fresh food on it clear into the winter. And now the small, honest word on why so few families keep a fall garden anymore. And I do not say it to stir you up. There is no money for anyone in a $1 packet of seed that feeds you for months out of your own backyard. The money is all in the grocery aisle, in the produce flown across the world and priced high in the cold season when nothing grows. So the fall garden that every household on this land once kept as plain and ordinary as making bread got quiet and got forgotten, and a whole generation came to believe that the garden simply ends in August. But it does not end in August, friend. In August, the best of it is only beginning. The good book sends us to the smallest of creatures to learn this very wisdom. Go to the ant, it says, consider her ways and be wise. She has no captain, no overseer, no ruler, and yet she stores her provision in the summer and gathers her food in the harvest. That is the whole of it, friend. The ant is praised for one simple thing. She does not wait for the cold to arrive and then go running about in a panic looking for food. She lays it up quietly in the warm days, in good time, at no great cost, so that when the lean season comes, and it always comes, she is ready and unafraid. The fall garden is exactly that wisdom worked out with a rake and a seed packet. It is not fear of the winter. It is a calm provision made against it while the days are still warm. The same quiet readiness as trimming the lamp before the dark ever falls. There is peace in that a man can feel all the way to his bones. So here is what I want you to do this week. Find your first frost date and do that little bit of counting backward. Then buy a few dollar packets of seed, the fast ones if you are up north, the whole list if you are down south. Rake up one strip of dirt or fill a few buckets on the porch, and get your radishes and your spinach and your kale into the ground this very weekend. And save the carrots a little bed of their own, and mark it for the deep winter digging that is going to feel like a small miracle the first time you do it. Now tell me in the comments below. Tell me your state and, if you know it, your first frost date. Because this whole video turns on where you live, and I would truly like to help you time it right. And did your mother or your father or your grandparents keep a fall garden, a crop they always made sure to get in the ground in the last weeks of summer? Tell me what it was and what they grew, for the old fall gardens look different in different corners of this country, and I like to map the old ways by where you all write from. I read every single one. Next time, since we have been putting food into the ground against the cold, I'm going to show you how the old folks kept a whole harvest through the entire winter, with no freezer and no electricity at all. The root cellar a family could make in the corner of a basement, or a hole dug in the yard, that held a summer's growing right through to spring. It is the natural next step after today, and I hope you will walk it with me. Until then, look well to what you have been given, waste nothing, and God bless.